Have you ever imagined like someone who's not only like an Olympic athlete, but like also a skilled fighter pilot?
Sounds like something out of a movie, right?
Yeah, it's like total action hero material, right? And that's the life we're going to look at today. Iris Cummings Critchell.
Really remarkable woman.
It is.
Yeah.
And we've got this cool article from the U.S. Department of Defense archives to help us dig into it.
Really fascinating stuff.
So let's start with like her athletic background.
Yeah.
Iris was a swimming champ,
Oh, yeah.
like crazy young. At only 15, she won the 1936 American National 200-meter breaststroke.
Wow.
I know. And then get this, she goes on to represent the U.S. at the Berlin Olympics that same year.
Wow. On the world stage at 15 during such a historically significant time. I mean, can you imagine the pressure?
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, like, could we see like hints of her, future fearlessness in those early athletic days?
Oh, absolutely. The dedication, the focus to reach that level of competition.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm curious, like, beyond the obvious discipline, how did all that training, specifically maybe prepare her for aviation?
That's a great question. It's not just physical strength and stamina.
Right.
It's also think about the mental toughness to push through, those grueling training regimens, to stay calm under pressure, make those split-second decisions.
So there's like transferable skills.
Exactly. Those are qualities that are essential in the cockpit. And remember, this was a time when women in aviation were incredibly rare.
Right.
It took a certain audacity to even consider that path.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So maybe her athletic background like gave her that belief she could, defy expectations, excel in any field.
Yeah, and break those barriers.
Totally. Which leads us to 1939.
Okay.
She joins the Civilian Pilot Training Program at the University of Southern California.
Yeah.
What was the big deal about this program?
Well, you have to consider the historical context, right? War's on the horizon.
Oh.
And the U.S. government knows they need more pilots and they need them fast.
Okay, so like a strategic move.
Exactly. The Civilian Pilot Training Program was designed to create this reserve of civilian pilots who could, be called upon if needed.
So it wasn't just about personal interest, it was about preparing for a potential national crisis.
Right. And for a woman to be involved in this program at that time, super groundbreaking.
Yeah, I bet. It really challenged like all those traditional gender roles.
Absolutely. Showed a willingness to contribute to national defense in a way that just wasn't typical for women back then.
Then as war does break out, Iris's story gets even more interesting.
Oh, yeah.
1941, she becomes a flight instructor for Navy cadets.
Wow, training future pilots for combat.
Yeah, think about that responsibility.
It's huge. She wasn't just teaching them to fly, she was preparing them to survive.
And from there, she joined the Women's Auxiliary Ferrying Squadron.
Right, which eventually became part of the WASP.
A WASP, yeah, the Women Air Force Service Pilots in 1943.
Incredible group of women.
So tell us more about the WASP and what they did during the war.
Well, they played a crucial role in freeing up male pilots for combat missions overseas.
Okay, how so?
These women were highly skilled. They ferried planes from factories to bases, transported cargo, even towed targets for like aerial gunnery practice.
Wow, so they were right in the thick of it.
They were, and they flew a huge range of aircraft, often in really challenging conditions, proving their skill and dedication every step of the way.
So we're talking serious flying skills here.
Yeah.
What were some of the specific planes that Iris flew with the West Boy?
Get ready for this. She flew the P-38 Lightning,
Oh, wow.
the P-61 Black Widow,
Okay.
and perhaps most famously, the P-51 Mustang.
The P-51 Mustang, isn't that considered one of the best fighters of World War II?
It is. It was revolutionary.
So what made it so special? The speed, the agility, firepower?
All of the above. It had a powerful Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, giving it exceptional speed and range.
I bet.
The aerodynamic design made it super maneuverable, so it could, outmaneuver enemy fighters in dogfights.
Wow.
And the firepower, 6.50 caliber machine guns capable of tearing through enemy aircraft.
That's amazing. Okay, so let's recap for a second. We've got an Olympic athlete who trained during, global tension, learned to fly in a program to prepare for war, and then flew one of the most iconic fighter planes in history during World War II.
It's like each step prepared her for the next challenge.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty incredible story.
It really is. And it shows how interconnected her experiences were.
And it doesn't stop there. Her story keeps going.
Oh, yeah.
There's a love story, dedication to aviation education, even a connection to the space program.
It's remarkable.
But we'll have to save those details for after a quick break.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back.
Did you know that AER can help you with emergency leave? Contact the AER office at 533-5312 for more information. Soldiers helping soldiers.
Her life really does read like an adventure novel.
It does. So the next chapter, if you will,
Okay.
the article says she married a fellow military pilot, Howard Critchell.
Ah,
Yeah. So what do we know about their relationship and like how it maybe, shaped their shared passion for aviation?
well, I think their connection went beyond, just a shared profession. They met during the war. So you can imagine that mutual love for flying, plus, the intensity of wartime service, created like a deep and lasting connection.
So it was more than just sharing a cockpit. It was about sharing a life, defined by adventure risk.
Absolutely. And a commitment to something bigger than themselves.
Right. And it seems like that partnership extended beyond their personal lives. They dedicated themselves to aviation education.
They did.
Yeah.
Working together to inspire, that next generation of pilots and aerospace professionals.
Yeah, the article talks about the Bates Aeronautics Program. How did that get started? And what was Iris's vision for it?
Well, it was established through the Bates Foundation, which Iris helped to create. And her vision was to provide young people with hands-on flight training and aerospace education, regardless of their background or financial means.
So it was about making aviation accessible.
Exactly. Nurturing that passion for flight in those who might not have had the opportunity otherwise.
And it sounds like the program had some pretty impressive alumni,
It did.
including future astronauts Stanley G. Love and George Nelson.
Wow.
It's amazing to think that Iris Cummings Critchell, this woman who started as a swimmer, played a role in shaping the future of space exploration.
It really shows the ripple effect of her influence.
Yeah.
She wasn't just teaching people to fly planes, she was fostering a love for exploration.
Just pushing those boundaries.
Exactly, a desire to push the limits of human achievement. And that spirit, extended beyond Earth's atmosphere, reaching for the stars.
Speaking of pushing boundaries, the article mentions her victory in the all-woman transcontinental air race in 1957.
Oh, wow.
So what can you tell us about this race and what kind of challenges she might have faced?
Oh, these air races were no joke. They demanded precision, stamina, nerves of steel.
Yeah.
Pilots had to navigate these huge distances, often facing unpredictable weather, mechanical challenges.
I bet.
Winning a race like that shows, just how skilled she was as a pilot. Her strategic thinking, her ability to perform under pressure.
Yeah, it also highlights that competitive spirit she honed during her Olympic years. Like she found a new arena to test her limits, prove her capabilities.
Yeah.
Do we know what type of aircraft she flew in the race?
The article doesn't specify the exact model,
Okay.
but given her experience and, what the race demanded, it was probably a plane known for speed range reliability.
Right.
Maybe something like a Beechcraft Bonanza or a Cessna 182.
Okay.
Planes that were, pretty popular back then for their performance and versatility.
It makes you think about all the changes in aviation technology she saw throughout her life.
Oh, absolutely.
From those early biplanes of her training days to the sleek, powerful aircraft of the 1950s.
Right. It's a remarkable transformation from open cockpits to pressurized cabins, basic navigation tools to, sophisticated avionics.
Yeah, she witnessed this huge period of innovation in aviation.
She did.
And imagine the stories she could tell about those changes.
Oh, I bet.
What it was like to go from the rumble of a piston engine to the roar of a jet engine to experience those increasing speeds and altitudes.
Let's not forget the societal shifts, too. The role of women in aviation changed so much during her lifetime.
Yeah, thanks in part to her contributions and the legacy of the WASP.
Exactly. It's like she bridged the gap between those early pioneers of flight and, the modern era of aviation.
It really speaks to her adaptability, her willingness to embrace change, and that enduring passion for flight. And speaking of enduring passion, the article says she remained an active pilot examiner for the FAA well into her 80s.
Wow.
It seems like aviation wasn't just a career for her. It was a lifelong love affair.
Absolutely. And that dedication is so inspiring. She wasn't content to just, sit back and reminisce about her past achievements.
Right.
She stayed involved, contributing her knowledge and experience to make sure future generations of pilots were safe and professional.
But as inspiring as her story is, we can't overlook the fact that the WOSPI program was deactivated in December 1944.
Right.
And it took decades for their contributions to be fully recognized. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've seen Iris excel as an athlete, break barriers as a pilot, contribute to the war effort, inspire future generations through education, and continue her passion for aviation her whole life.
She really did live an incredible life.
But there's one more thing we haven't touched on yet.
Okay.
The impact of her legacy on women in aviation.
Let's dive into that next.
Yeah, it's amazing how her story goes way beyond just like, personal achievements and gets into these bigger ideas of, like societal change and progress.
Yeah, for sure. And her impact on women in aviation is just huge. Like, think about it. She's up there flying when so many people still thought a woman's place was, on the ground.
Yeah, she was like totally defined those ideas every time she flew.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just her flying skills that mattered. It was that she was so dedicated to, aviation education.
Right through that Bates Aeronautics program.
Exactly. She helped so many young people, get into flying, even future astronauts.
It's like she planted those seeds, for future generations of women to reach for the stars.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Totally. She opened up doors that were closed before, showed that women could be amazing pilots and contribute to, aerospace technology and exploration.
And speaking of like breaking barriers, the article mentions that she was the last surviving Olympian from the 1936 Berlin Games.
Oh, wow.
I know. That's like a direct link to such a big moment in history.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how much time has passed and how individual lives, connect with these big historical events.
Right.
Like, she competed in the Berlin Olympics when things were so tense in the world, right before the war.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, she's playing this vital role in that very conflict.
It's like her life mirrors those, like crazy times of the 20th century, from the Olympics to, war-torn Europe.
And through it all, she never lost that passion for aviation, always pushing boundaries and inspiring others to do the same.
And the article talks about all the awards and recognition she got. The National Flight Instructors Hall of Fame. The FAA's Wright Brothers Master Pilot award the Nile Gold Medal from the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale.
That's a pretty impressive list.
It is. And it shows how much of an impact she had on the world of aviation.
For sure. Those awards recognize not just her skills as a pilot, but also her dedication to safety, being professional and education.
It's clear she was so much more than just a pilot.
Right. She was a pioneer, an educator, a real inspiration.
She was. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the incredible life of Iris Cummings Critchell, what's like the one thing you really hope people listening will take away from this?
I think it's the importance of really going after your passions. Giving it your all, even when things are tough or when society tells you can't.
Yeah.
Iris's life shows us what's possible when you don't give up, when you have the courage to break boundaries, and how much one person can really change the world.
It's a story that makes you feel like you can do anything, right?
It does. It makes you wonder what we could all achieve if we just, dared to dream big and chase those dreams with the same fearlessness that she did.
Yeah, maybe someone listening right now will be inspired to take that leap of faith, to try something new, something different, and make their own mark on the world.
That would be amazing.
It would. Well, that's our deep dive for today. If you want to learn more about Iris and the WASOP program, we've got links in the show notes. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep reaching for those impossible dreams.